Derbyite, we are back for yet another discussion about the 94th Annual Academy Awards nominations, which were announced this morning. And many of us are still digesting and distilling and scratching our heads over some of the more interesting, unusual, and slightly frustrating nominations that came out. I'm Rob Licuria, senior editor at Go Derby, and I'm here with Riley Chow, Charles Bright, and Tony Ruiz, three of some of my favorite people on planet Earth. And guys, a few days ago, I said to some of you that I love a really good unpredictable race. I love it how it's crazy and it's hard to predict, and it's just, kind of keeps things interesting. I'm not sure. I think maybe I should have said that be careful what you wish for, because although there were some really interesting and happy surprises, and of course a lot of nominations that we expected, there were also a few snubs, so to speak, that I found really hard to swallow, and was trying to find my black veil to wear for the rest of the day. I couldn't find it. Lucky for you, you get to see my face. So I want to go to you first, Riley, because we didn't get to speak to you last week. What the hell happened to some of those really big contenders that we thought would be nominated, for example, like Lady Gaga?
Well, Rob, I don't normally pander to the Outlander fan base as much as you do, but right now I'd like to pander to you actually, because the Caitriona Balfe snub, I mean, that was my favorite performance of the year. So what
Yeah.
happened there?
Look, I don't know what to say. I was really disappointed by that, not only because I'm such a big fan of Caitriona's, as everybody knows, and of the show, but I thought her performance in Belfast was absolutely phenomenal and without any bias. She also received all the precursor nominations that we generally follow to give us some kind of tea leaves understanding of what's about to happen on Oscar nominations morning. She, as well as I think Ariana DeBose, were the only two in that category to have everything they needed to get the nomination. And then when I woke up this morning, which was only literally about an hour ago, and watched the nominations announcement on my phone and saw that Dench was in there, Judi Dench, Dame Judi Dench, no disrespect to her at all. I was quite shattered for Caitriona, because what does this woman have to do to be nominated by an Academy? She keeps being snubbed by the Emmys, and now, unfortunately, she's missed out at the Oscars. I think what's happened here, like her co-star Jamie Dornan, I have a feeling that there's probably a bit of category confusion. Although to me, and I think Charlie will probably back me up on this, to me, she felt like a supporting performance, but I think there was probably some confusion there. Kieran Hines and Judi Dench are so obviously supporting, and I think Dornan and Balfe should have been in lead with Jude Hill, and unfortunately that has probably hurt her, but it doesn't make a lot of sense. You can make arguments for a lot of the other people that missed out today, but for Balfe, I'm just really coming up with just that and that alone. Does anybody else have anything to add about the Balfe situation? Because I think a lot of people on social media today will be pouring out their hearts in anger, sadness, and disgust.
I think I want to add to that I cannot usually we have one acting snub of someone who got in everywhere, the precursors, and then misses on Oscar morning. There are, from my count, three that we had this year, of Gaga, Caitriona Balfe, and I'm pretty sure Ruth Negga got in everywhere for all the precursors as well for passing. So I mean, yeah. So that is just bizarre on a whole other level.
Yeah, these nominations are wild. Like, the precursors have never been more off, which is great, because it used to feel like such Groundhog Day during awards season. Tony, what do you think about how the tea leaves aren't as kind of revelatory as they used to be?
The tea leaves are nowhere more confusing than in Best Actress. In recent years, I think we've seen BAFTA really kind of take the lead and really point us when there's been confusion about a winner, about who's going to win. BAFTA's really been the indicator. That's not going to happen this year in Actress, because every single performer nominated for Best Actress was not nominated at BAFTA. So BAFTA gives us nothing whatsoever. In terms of Gaga, um, I, I think, I'm as stunned as anybody that she was not in. I was really shocked by that, even as not as a fan of that movie or of that performance. But I think what could have happened is there was an awful lot of press about her method acting, that she stayed in character for a year and a half beforehand. Sometimes those, and there was a lot of those articles, especially in the last week or two leading up to. I think that has the tendency sometimes to backfire. It almost seems a little kind of like Sally Kirkland, Anna campaigny, which is a reference for you young people. Look it up. In something more recent, Melissa Leo, although it didn't backfire against her because she won the Oscar. But I think that in a crowded field like this, I think they just didn't respond to that film. That film seemed to be more big among the fan base and than among like the serious film goers. I mean, Jared Leto, did not get the nominated, so I can't help myself every single time. So
yeah, I think actually for all the Gaga fans who may be watching this today, I think you should take solace in that this is not personal. She has an Oscar already for song. She was nominated for A Star Is Born. She's a wonderful actress. She's a great performer. She's one of the best in the world. I don't think that movie really hit with the Oscar voters, obviously, because I thought it might have made it in costumes as well. And it only made it in makeup. And that's most likely for Jared Leto's prosthetics.
And there was even some discussion that it could potentially get into picture.
Yeah,
I had it in picture. Yeah. I was very surprised.
You're right. So let's move off Gaga, because that was very shocking. Just yesterday and before, many of us, including myself, were saying she's in the lead now to win. She's got everything she requires. That race is so up in the air because Kristen Stewart is being snubbed. And guess what? She's in. And I'm very happy for Kristen Stewart. It's the only Spencer nomination. And I feel very relieved for her. I really do, because no matter what you think about her as a person, not that any of us know her, she was fantastic in Spencer and such a front runner for many, many months, and then all of a sudden became a nothing, and she's back in. So does anybody... Yeah, go ahead, Charlie.
There was justification, good justification, I believe, for why a lot of us took her out. The two organizations that have overlapping membership with the Academy both did not nominate her.
Yeah,
and we knew that film was divisive at best. And so it kind of made sense to take her out. And I gotta say, I feel like this has to feel especially rewarding to Stewart and her people, because so many at this point, within the last week, so many people were taking her out, were saying this movie's basically DOA. But she has proved them wrong. She has campaigned her ass off for this, and I'm happy for her being a first-time Oscar nominee. So she should savor that for all that it's worth.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's talk about a couple more people that missed out that we were very surprised by. I'll go first, and maybe whoever wants to speak to this, please do. Denis Villeneuve. I would have expected to be in. I thought he was right behind Jane Campion. I was even hearing about people saying she might even lose to him at some point. I mean, that's obviously crazy now, but Denis Villeneuve should be there. I can't believe a 10 Oscar nominated film can't get its director in. And I just feel really confused by that nomination. I want to talk about the Drive My Car phenomenon soon with Charlie in particular. But before we do, Riley, your compatriot Denis Villeneuve didn't make it in. Why do you think that is?
Well, I want to know, who are these people who are ranking Steven Spielberg number one? Because, when it comes to the Oscars, you need the number one votes. That's how they count up the nominating votes. So we do often see people like, Tom Hanks or Amy Adams after a while. They found it harder to get nominated, even though they were consistently turning in good work, because they just weren't landing at the top of ballots because there were always more exciting choices. So I thought Steven Spielberg would be in that company, and Denis Villeneuve, like he's more of a rising director, and yeah, he's got this film that could sweep the craft categories. I don't know if I can predict it for that much, given that the director was snubbed. And also he won the ACTA award, which, has some Academy membership, and, they do miss a lot of things like him this year, for example, but they did also have Judi Dench win the award over, and they also nominated Kristen Stewart and Penelope Cruz. So yeah, just a lot of our overlapping memberships are pointing us in weird directions this year.
Yeah, it's completely impossible to know what the hell is going on before the Oscars, and that's probably a good thing. It makes it more interesting. But with Best Director, there was so much talk about Steven Spielberg missing out, and of course West Side Story underperforming. That has been blown out of the water. Probably, I think it probably did better than I even expected, and I loved that movie. Okay, it's fascinating that Ryosuke Hamaguchi is in. Many of us thought that would happen. Charlie, you've been saying this for a very long time. Talk us through the Drive My Car phenomenon. That movie did so well this morning.
What's interesting about this is that, we've had a couple of articles in recent weeks from different publications and different prominent bloggers about the role of critics in the Oscar race. And I got to tell you, I really think that the critics, especially critics groups, really helped put a spotlight on Drive My Car, and has helped it really, and has really made it the front runner in a national feature, and made it a pretty solid bet to get into directing and an adapted screenplay. That all started with New York, and then LA, National Society of Film Critics, all. A bunch of them went with this, and I'm sure that boosted its profile and made sure that people in the Academy watched it in the screening room there, and it paid off. It paid off big time, because I wasn't completely shocked at the Best Picture nomination, but it was, I was looking for a reason to put it in my lineup, and I just couldn't. And so I couldn't find that reasoning. So I think it's really, obviously it appealed to the right amount of people, and it pulled off one of the biggest stunners that we've seen this season.
Such a good point about the critics. Whenever we write articles in future about how critics can drive a film's narrative at the Oscars, this should be front and center. Speaking of international feature, Worst Person in the World also got a nomination in adapted original screenplay, which is so awesome. That's a great movie. If not for the Drive My Car phenomenon this year, I would have expected Worst Person in the World to be a real threat in international feature. And I'm very happy for Lunana Ayak in the Classroom, only because I didn't want the international feature category to be so Eurocentric. And it's nice to see a film from a small country in Central Asia with not a very big film industry, obviously, in this race. That is an interesting film. It's a beautiful film to look at. I didn't think it was going to be the Academy's cup of tea, but it reminds me of the, funnily enough, the Australian nomination from a few years ago, Tana, which was set in Vanuatu. It's a kind of a different film telling the story about people that we don't normally hear about. And I think it's nice to see a film like Lunana Ayak in the Classroom. Tony, what are your thoughts on the 10 Best Picture lineup? Because we all were writing to each other for days, day and night, about what we were going to put in those last couple of slots. What do you think about how it all panned out with, Nightmare Alley and Drive My Car in those last two slots?
Well, the Drive My Car one was the one that was particularly kind of shocking to me. It shouldn't have been, but it was. I don't know why I completely just kind of ignored Drive My Car getting the picture, because it doesn't happen as often as we think it's going to. I thought that 10th slot would have been taken up by, perhaps being the Ricardos, or, since it got that Best Actor nomination, or, possibly Macbeth or whatever. but there's something that hinders, I think, a lot of the ones in this. And I think what this lineup shows is that I think Power of the Dog is a huge, huge front runner.
Oh yeah.
And I'm not quite sure. I think everything just has kind of solidified around it, which I think is the unexpected thing. I did not expect 12 nominations for this.
Unbelievable. 12 nominations. I did not think it would be the leader in nominations at all. And I think it's very telling that Jesse Plemons, who I think most of you predicted, which is wonderful, so great for him. He's always overlooked. He's in the nominations now in a very competitive category, and that's very telling that that film has 2 nominations in the supporting actor category, plus Kirsten Dunst, plus Benedict Cumberbatch. It's basically nominated everywhere apart from costume design. I think everywhere where it should have been or could have been nominated.
Got into production design and sound, which I don't think a lot of people saw coming.
Incredible.
The
Really
sound
good.
one, the sound one was shocking to me. I thought it had a chance in costumes, but I did not expect sound.
Well, he had the comb, and he just
that's amazing. I can't wait to watch that for a third time. I was completely just taken aback by how beautiful and amazing that film is. So good on that film. So Riley, you're usually our stats guy, or the guy that kind of can remember how things work. How does Penelope Cruz, who got no attention apart from the Australian Academy, which, as you rightly put it, is actually more of a predictor than we like to realize because it's still quite new, how does she do so well and make it into this category? I'm still in shock. I'm so happy for her. Her performance in Parallel Mothers is amazing, but what the hell has happened there?
Well, it is those number 1 votes. People who are watching her, they're more likely to rank her highly. And if people haven't seen her, that doesn't really matter because it's the number 1 votes that are being counted. But what I don't understand is how we have this new BAFTA nominating system where they take the top 2 in the popular vote and then combine them with 4 jury picks. So the top 2 should have been in the Oscar top 5, just because of the shared voters, of the voters' similar sensibilities. And then even the other 4, you'd think that, out of the remaining group of 13, just, they would have at least gotten one of them in. But it just doesn't make any sense. I will say about Being the Ricardos and House of Gucci, I think that we continually underestimate how highbrow the Academy is. The Film Academy and also the Television Academy. We always see these, very popular films and audience, crowd favorites that we think, okay, like they have broad appeal and they'll do well at the Oscars. But the Oscars tend to go for stuff that is more critically acclaimed and a bit more prestigious.
That's a really good point. We have to constantly remember that. The popcorn entertainment does not do well with the Academy as well as maybe a lot of us, and particularly the Academy and ABC would like.
Well, I mean, you look at this Best Picture lineup, and what's so interesting, and I don't think it's as equally distributed as you might want, but I mean, this is what you kind of want, what you would hope for with a lineup of 10. You have prestige films like Belfast, Power of the Dog, more auteur-driven films like Licorice Pizza and Drive My Car. Would you call Coda an indie movie? I don't know if you would.
I would say so, yeah. Even though Apple,
I would call it the little indie that could.
Coda, your indie film. You have Dune, which is a science fiction movie, which did gangbusters at the box office. West Side Story, a musical. I think this is what you want from a lineup of 10. The only thing that we haven't got in here is an animated film or a documentary.
Yeah, I think you need Spider-Man too.
I think it would have been nice to see Spider-Man do a bit better than just visual effects. But once again, the Academy will, apart from Black Panther, and will only nominate Marvel movies, generally speaking, in visual effects, and then that's it. And but you know what, Charlie? That's a very good point. No matter how unhappy we all may be about certain things missing out or certain things being included, Best Picture is a nice representative lineup of what 2021 looked like in the year of cinema. So maybe we should kind of take solace that they did nominate quite a nice broad spectrum of films. And speaking of the little film that killed, I'm very happy for Coda. What an amazing little movie that did so well when it was bought by Apple TV Plus. I'm disappointed for Marlee Matlin, even for Amelia Jones, who's great in there as the lead actress, but fantastic for Troy Kotsur. And I think he's probably in the front runner place now because of the dreaded vote split situation, even though Cody Smith-McPhee.
I disagree about that, actually.
Okay, you tell me what you think.
Well, there's not always a vote split, particularly in the supporting categories. We've seen it time and time again, multiple nominees from the same film, and there's always usually one, going all the way back to, say, Robert De Niro in The Godfather Part 2. I think there were 3 or 4.
There were 3.
There were 3 Godfather Part 2 nominees in that film. I still think this is Cody Smith-McPhee's to lose. I really do. This is a performance that just really seems to have captured everybody, and I don't think he splits as much with Jesse Plemons. I think I kind of see it kind of similarly to the Sam Rockwell, Woody Harrelson year of 3 Billboards,
or even last year, exactly.
It's so funny. Last year is just kind of
just
out of my head.
Yeah,
so I think it's between those two, but I actually still give the edge to Cody Smith-McPhee because again, a Best Picture frontrunner usually will take an acting win along with it.
Yeah, I'm of the same sort of mindset. In order for me to predict anyone other than Cody Smith-McPhee, I would have to see him lose something, and so far he has not.
That's right. Let's wait. When we see what happens at SAG and BAFTA and so forth, I think that will crystallize how the race is going to pan out. But I do think.
I do think Troy Kotsur is a very, very close second.
Yeah, I think
little momentum shift could change all of that.
That's right. I think that's what I was getting at. Like Troy Kotsur has just always been just behind, and having Jesse Plemons in there to pull some votes away, perhaps from Cody Smith-McPhee, is good news for Coda. I think that's really all I was saying. But I think I agree with you, Tony. Vote splitting is bullshit, and it's not necessarily a thing in every category every year.
It is, but it is a thing when it is a thing, and it's not when it's not.
Exactly. That's another poems by Maya Angelou. So I think, Tick Tick Boom kind of disappointed many. It didn't get into picture, it got into actor, and then it got into editing. Very surprising that Una Nina Gila did not make it for Belfast. I had her in first place. What do you guys think about how Tick Tick Boom made it into editing? I know it's a kind of random thing to talk about, but that really surprised me.
I was actually surprised that it was Tick Tick Boom and not West Side Story that got into editing. If a musical is going to get into editing, I would have thought it would be the one in picture and director, but no, they went with Tick Tick Boom. I think that's a fantastic choice.
Yeah, I'm quite proud of the editors this year, because normally it's just Best Picture Redux, and I think what is even the point of this category? But this year, we have editing nominees that actually have very showy editing, and also The Power of the Dog, because it's winning Best Picture.
No disrespect to Peter Sebaris.
I was very surprised that Licorice Pizza didn't get into the editing. I know that editing is not part of what it is, but it just felt like it would be one that would go along for the ride, because we thought Licorice Pizza was we thought it would be much more well positioned than it actually ended up being at the end of the day. I will say the King Richard one was a surprise, but it makes sense the way those tennis scenes are put together. When the kids when Venus and Serena are playing tennis, are beautifully done. And Tick Tick Boom, I know a lot of people who love that movie really highlighted amongst one of their favorite aspects of it to be the editing of that movie. So it wasn't too surprising, but I mean, when it happened, I was thinking, okay, is this now getting into picture?
Yeah, it reminded me, it shows the certain branches are paying attention. It reminded me of last year when The Father made it in to certain categories where I thought it was a long shot. It's because these voters sometimes actually are really paying attention, which it makes it so frustrating and heartbreaking when they snub, and I hate using that word, but it's just an easy way to say it. They snub certain performances and so forth, where we thought they were shoo-ins because they were so wonderful. Coming to America made it into makeup and hairstyling, not into costume design. It seems that the makeup branch really enjoys movies where Eddie Murphy is wearing prosthetic makeup.
Well, with this movie, we have seen, the playing multiple characters and the prosthetic makeup is a trademark of a lot of Eddie Murphy movies. And even if the movie is not very well received, it can still get in. We saw this about, I want to say like 13 years ago with Norbit, which,
which cost Eddie Murphy the Oscar.
Yes, which widely was derided by critics, and I think I don't remember how well it did at the box office, and it still showed up in the makeup category because the prosthetic work was for them, it was undeniable.
Yeah, absolutely.
I thought it was interesting that Suicide Squad won in that category, but the Suicide Squad, one little article makes all the difference.
Doesn't it ever? So apt from an English teacher. Diane Warren, we were talking about her offline. She gets in for every year, no matter what. So I could literally just read out her lines in my terrible singing voice and probably get her nominated again. So Diane, hit me up. But yeah, she gets nominated.
What is it going to take for her to win?
Again, she's going to lose. This is lucky number 13 and 7th in a row. And I feel sorry for her in some respects because she deserves an Oscar. But on the other hand, I know, having spoken to her, I know how thrilled she will be to be in this lineup. And she's not expecting to win for a film that no one saw, no one really cared about, to be honest. This is an interesting category.
I've actually never heard of it.
Yeah, I watched it, and we'll just leave it at that. So the Billie Eilish song, the Van Morrison song, the Lin-Manuel Miranda song, the wrong song from that film, but here we are. And of course, the Beyonce song made it in. That was a very competitive race. All the shortlisted songs were wonderful. I know them all very, very intimately because I did a panel for them, and that's why I'm so passionate about this category. It's a great category. I wish a couple of these were not here and a couple of others were here instead. I won't even go into why and how and what. Does anyone have anything to say about Best Original Song? Because I think that's actually not a slam dunk for Billy and Phineas.
I don't think it is either.
I don't think it's I think it's likely, but I'm willing to concede that there's some that aspect that dynamic could change. I was kind of sad that Just Look Up didn't make it in here. I thought that was great, and I thought the fact that it's in the context of the movie would play very well, or Be on the Shore from Coda. But I mean, overall I think this is a great lineup. And what's interesting about this lineup is you have a song from a movie that's doing very well and where other songs are actually like charting and hitting number 1 on the Billboard charts. And then you have 3 songs by very, very prominent recording artists in Beyonce, Van Morrison, and Billie Eilish. And then you got Diane Warren also. And so that's a great lineup.
It really is. Oh, Charlie, I'm loving your glass half full mentality this morning. It's just sustaining me. It's really good.
I have to change something because I'm supposed to be the cynical bastard here.
I know, you're supposed to be the bitter old hag, and here we are. Best Original Score was expected. I'm very happy with all 5 nominations. In fact, I think it's one of the strongest Best Original Scores in a very long time. I've been listening to all these scores on loop for weeks. They're all really, really, really good. Does anyone have any comments about score? No? Yes? No.
I mean, I was a little shocked that they passed over Alexander Desplat. I thought he was someone who was like usually like, welcome to the club, and he's just been getting nominated ever since. But I mean, Parallel Mothers makes sense. And again, all of these are fantastic scores. And I think this one, I kind of still give the edge to Dune, but I really think this is going to be an incredible matchup between Dune and Power of the Dog.
Yeah. I really hope that the Academy finds some way to let these scores be performed in some way, shape, or form on the Oscars. I love it how they used to do that back in the day.
Have like Yo-Yo Ma or Yitzhak Perlman.
Yeah, I would love that with some images. Or no, we don't need interpretive dance.
No,
Debbie Allen, I love you, Debbie Allen, but we're good. But the score is always one of my favorite categories.
Along the lines of Welcome to the Club, like I thought Wes Anderson, maybe he would have been Welcome to the Club after Grand Budapest Hotel, because he made, films for years that were very technically impressive and they were always shut out. And I guess it's just back to that.
Yeah, it is. It's very.
It just seems like this one just didn't hit the way his other films have.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. With the documentary categories, I noticed I was looking at these, thinking about what you guys wanted to see there. I'm happy for Summer of Soul and for Tony. I'm unhappy for Procession and Charlie. Flea did so well by getting all three of its nominations. That's incredible. What a record to beat the record set by the North Macedonian film Honeyland a few years ago. And Audible made it in documentary short, and that made me happy for Tony as well. I'm going to watch that ASAP. Anything else to report on the documentary categories, Tony?
I think I've seen all of these films in the shorts and the feature, with the exception of Writing with Fire. I have not watched that one.
Yeah, that came out of nowhere.
I'm thrilled for Summer of Soul. It was my second favorite movie of the year. I'm thrilled in the doc shorts. I think it's a wonderful lineup. And again, I will say, a lot of these films are available for people to see, and I really hope that Netflix in particular has done a really good job in terms of putting these short films out for people to see. I think Audible, Lead Me Home, 3 Songs for Benazir, those are just magnificent short films. So I'm really happy with that lineup.
Yeah, go ahead, Charlie.
Yeah, I was as surprised as anyone that Summer of Soul actually got in. I yelled at you, Tony. I stand by my yelling at you because I think this might be the exception to the rule, but being in the front runner position is never what you want to be with a documentary feature. Considering how this branch goes, I was surprised they went with Attica, considering that's on Showtime. Now I know probably, and it was developed for Showtime. Is that right?
It premiered. I forget where it premiered, either at New York or maybe Toronto. Okay. Initially, so it was theatrical before it went to Showtime.
Yeah, and right. But it's an immensely fascinating and compelling documentary. So I'm really happy it's in there. I had the wrong shun. I thought it would be Procession and not Ascension. So credit. I guess credit to me on that. But I messaged you all earlier saying that I have tendered my resignation at Cold Derby because I only got one right in each of the short categories and documentary feature. And I am going to I'm going to stand in a corner for the next 30 days and hang my head in shame.
Well, we don't accept it, and I don't think we can. Anyway.
No, yeah, I'm not accepting any of that. I need to see Writing with Fire because that, to me, probably bumped out The Rescue, and that really surprised me that The Rescue wasn't in this lineup. Mm-hmm. That's a wonderful movie. Animated feature is pretty much, I think, what we expected. And look, apart from that, I was just going to ask you all if you could probably pinpoint the one thing that you're happiest about and the one thing that you are most annoyed about. Who would like to go first if you've got something up at the top of your mind?
In terms of what makes me super happy, the doc shorts, I'm happy. I'm really happy that Macbeth got into both cinematography and production design. I think that's one of the most just beautiful looking films. For that movie to be made on a soundstage and still look as lush and simultaneously lush and stark at the same time. I think it's beautiful production design. I think I would have really, really loved to have been surprised in Best Actor with something out of left field. I really wish we could have seen something like Nicolas Cage for Pig, or my favorite performance of the year, Simon Rex in Red Rocket. I was hoping that he would have a chance, but I think overall this is we can complain, but I think it's still a really good list of people.
Yeah. Charlie?
Because I was nervous about it, I'm incredibly happy that the Mitchells versus the Machines got into animated feature. After that Globe snub, I was so worried about it. But now I'm reasonably happy. I'm a bit. I mean, I am disappointed that Procession and didn't get into documentary feature, and Day of Rage didn't get into documentary short. Let me just. I'm trying to see here. Overall, but I think it's an interesting batch of nominees. I think a lot of these boiling down, a lot of these tech categories boiling down to Dune versus Power of the Dog make this really interesting. And especially like if Power of the Dog ends up, being this incredibly solid front runner for picture, how many wins are going to go along? Could I think cinematography is a very realistic thing. Score, and possibly film editing, and there's a lot of it's going to be interesting to see what the coattails are for this. How many can go along for this ride?
Yeah, Riley.
Jesse Plemons and Jesse Buckley should have been nominated last year in lead for I'm Thinking of Ending Things. So I think it's a kind of a nice surprise that they're both nominated in supporting this year.
Oh, that's a great one. Yeah, I totally agree with that. It's just like 1 year too late Academy, but we'll take it. I do
love the Fargo, they're all Fargo alumni as well, which makes me incredibly happy.
That's really cool. Some random things apart from Caitriona Balfe and Lady Gaga, and particularly Nicolas Cage, I was willing that to happen. I just think, as discerning as the Academy can be, there are some films that just do not make it onto their radar, and Pig was one of them. That's just a delightful, brilliant film, and it's just such a shame to Michael Sarnowski and his whole team that didn't make it in. I'm happy for things like Free Guy and Shang-Chi in visual effects, as well as Spider-Man, the biggest film of the year, which only got one nomination. And I'm really happy for like little things where it makes a lot of sense, like as we've talked about before, to see, I'm just trying to think of something. The worst person in the world in screenplay. That's a really, really interesting choice. And I'm pretty happy with a lot of their choices. I just think that some of the ones that missed are going to make this Oscar season a little bit bittersweet for me. That's all.
I forgot my biggest disappointment. No Mass. I mean, how?
Oh yes, yeah.
I knew that it was a long shot at this point. But I was really hoping maybe in doubt or possibly a lone screenplay nomination. Academy members, you should see it.
Yeah, Bleecker Street, I don't know what's going on over there. You're all wonderful people, but I don't know what's happening. But Mass should have been a really big contender. Ann Dowd deserved, in fact, all four of the actors deserved nomination, but Ann Dowd in particular, that's very heartbreaking. So thank you for reminding us. And of course, like, here's another one. Like, Nina Arianda is the only main cast member from Being the Ricardos to miss out. Three of her other co-stars made it in, surprisingly for J.K. Simmons and even for Javier Bardem. So, there's little things like that where there's going to be a few people who are going to feel like they've been unfairly snubbed, and I hope that they all take solace that they're not the only ones, and they can join people like Jamie Dornan and Caitriona Balfe and the amazing Lady Gaga, and just not worry about stuff like this.
The reason why you don't have your veil, Rob, is because Lady Gaga has all of them right now.
She basically took all of them, and he's wearing all of them, and
I bet she looks fabulous.
I'm sure she looks fabulous. I think that's the best way to end this. Everybody, we've got so much more to come at Gold Derby, as you know. There's really no better place for Oscar coverage than Gold Derby. We'll have way more interviews with all the contenders and lots of really interesting articles and hot takes from many of us. Stay tuned with us, and we'll be back throughout the season to talk about how this race is shaping up. In the meantime, everybody have a lovely day, and thanks for joining us.